The Vajragacharya Stottras at the Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Vividi Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 2. We'll be doing text 1 and 2 today because text 1 has no purport. So why don't I chant number 1 by myself and we'll chant 2 together because that's the one we'll be speaking about. Shri Sukuvacha. No. Remember Simon Says, happens anyway. Okay, I'll chant number 1 because there's no purport. So I'll just chant number 1 and then we'll chant 2 together. Let's see if we get it this time. Shri Sukuvacha. No. I'm doing number 1 and we'll do number 2 together. Okay. Shri Sukuvacha. Iti Bhagavata Prishta. It's hard. It's a tough knee-jerk reaction. Shatravartam priyashrayam pratibhaktum kotseha odkantiyat smarateshvaraha. Okay, so translation. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura to speak on the messages of the dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord. Okay, now this one we'll do together. Ya pancha hayano matra pratar asaya yachita tan naichad rachayan yasya Saparyam Bala Lilaya Ya Pancha Hayano Matra Pratar Asaya Yachitaha Tanaichad Rachayan Yasya Sarpayam Bala Lilaya Ya pancha hayano matra pratar asaya yachitaha tannai chad rachayan yasya saparyam balalilaya ya pancha hayano matra pratar asaya yachitaha tannai chad rachayan yasya sarpayam balalilaya. Vaishnavis? Okay. Ya, one who. Pancha, 5. Hayana, years old. Matra, by his mother. Prata asaya, for breakfast. Yachitaha, called for. Tat, that. Na, not. Aichat, liked. Rachayan, playing. Yasya, whose. Saparyam, service. Balalilaya, childhood. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This is Sukadeva Goswami speaking. He says, he was one, referring to Uddhava, he was one who even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. Actually, did I read the translation to the first one? I did, okay, sorry. Okay, purport. From his very birth, Uddhava was a natural devotee of Lord Krishna, or Nityasiddha, a liberated soul. From natural instinct, he used to serve Lord Krishna, even in his childhood. He used to play with dolls in the form of Krishna. He would serve the dolls by dressing, feeding, and worshipping them, and thus he was constantly absorbed in the play of transcendental realization. These are the signs of an eternally liberated soul. An eternally liberated soul is a devotee of the Lord who never forgets him. Human life is meant for reviving one's eternal relation with the Lord, and all religious injunctions are meant for awakening this dormant instinct of the living entity. The sooner this awakening is brought about, the quicker the mission of human life is fulfilled. In a good family of devotees, the child gets the opportunity to serve the Lord in many ways. A soul who is already advanced in devotional service has the opportunity to take birth in such an enlightened family. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Bhajayate. Even the fallen devotees get the opportunity to take his birth. Even the fallen devotee gets his opportunity to take his birth in the family of a well-situated Brahmin or in a rich, well-to-do mercantile family. In both these families, there is good opportunity to revive one's sense of God consciousness automatically, because particularly in these families, the worship of Lord Krishna is regularly performed, and the child gets the opportunity to imitate the process of worship called archana. The Pancharatriki formula for training persons in devotional service is temple worship, whereby the neophyte devotee gets the opportunity to learn devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Pariksit also used to play with Krishna dolls in his childhood. In India, the children in good families are still given dolls of the Lord like Rama and Krishna, or sometimes the demigods, so that they may develop the aptitude of service to the Lord. By the grace of the Lord, we were given the same opportunity by our parents, and the beginning of our life was based on this principle. Om Ganatimidam Dashajidam Jana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So I apologize for the abbreviated Jairada Madhava and Prembhadvani prayers, but the kirtan went over, which is okay. But it's like self-defense, you know. Us speakers have to protect our turf here. So, and I hope nobody was embarrassed by that little bit of confusion in the beginning there. I hope I didn't embarrass anybody anyway. So, translation. This is Sukadeva Goswami speaking, and he's making the point that Uddhava, when he was 5 years old, he was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that even when his mother called him for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. So Sukadeva Goswami is mentioning this, so obviously it's something significant. It's significant for anybody to miss breakfast, to be so absorbed in something to miss breakfast. Well, particularly a 5-year-old child, because generally 5-year-old children aren't prone to austerities. They like to eat breakfast. So that he's pointing it out. It's significant that even at 5 years old, when most kids would want to stop and eat breakfast, he was so absorbed in his worship that he didn't even think about that. So while I'm remembering, today is the disappearance day of Jiva Goswami. Right. So one of the things that the Goswamis were, one of their achievements on a personal level was Sankhya Purva Ganamagana Natibi Kalavasani Krito Nidrahada Ahadakari Vijito Katyantadino Chayo Radha Krishna Gunasmritir Madhuriman Nandena Samavito Bande Rupa Sanatana Rugayago Shijiva Gopalago. So they were engaged in devotional service in a very regulated way, chanting, very regulated, and bowing down, offering obeisances. And by doing that, they conquered over eating and sleeping. So it's not an easy thing. That was one of their achievements. Conquered over eating and sleeping. So Jiva Goswami in particular, he was the youngest of the 6 Goswamis, and he's considered, he was the most prolific, means he wrote the most books, and he was considered the most systematic preacher of the 6 Goswamis. He actually did a lot of work to form a movement, whereas prior to that, there was, the bhajan was going on. Rupa Goswami and the other Goswamis made their contributions, but Jiva Goswami actually formulated things into a movement, and he was actually the first Sankirtan book distribution party leader, because he sent out Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Goswami, and Srinivasacharya. Srinivasacharya actually was his disciple, if I'm remembering correctly, and he was the author of that song that I just quoted that verse from. So he gets credit for that. And there's a lot of anecdotes, stories with Jiva Goswami. We know many of them. Maybe at the end, if we have time, we could kind of, go over some of those. But Jiva Goswami ki jai. So, and the purport Prabhupada says, he's talking about how Uddhava was a natural devotee of Lord Krishna, a Nityasiddha. And he describes a little bit about that. Now, so the question comes to my mind, well, if he's a Nityasiddha, means he's a liberated soul, Prabhupada says that, not forgetting Krishna at any time, what's he doing here in the material world? What's a Nityasiddha? What's a Nityasiddha doing here in the material world? Right? Doesn't make any sense. Well, it does make sense, but on one level it doesn't make any sense, because you think, well, if somebody's a Nityasiddha, they're liberated, they're always remembering Krishna, they're never forgetting Krishna, why are they here in the material world? They should be in the spiritual world. So, at least the answer that I came up with when I asked myself that question this morning when I was, reading the purport and preparing for the class was that Krishna comes to the material world. He's coming here to do something, for some purpose. See? So there's 2 reasons. One is the devotees, the Nityasiddhas, they're always wanting to serve Krishna. So here's an analogy, okay? Say Prabhupada, imagine you're back, it's 1975. Okay, and you're all in the movement here. We're all devotees of 1975. And you haven't been instructed that, to stay in your temple no matter what, and just continue with your service. And you hear that Prabhupada's going to wherever, going to China to preach. Okay? So, and you haven't been told to stay in your temple, and okay, that could be difficult. What would your inclination be? You'd be thinking, wow, Prabhupada's going to China? I'd like to go, because everybody always wanted to be around Prabhupada. Wherever Prabhupada went, if devotees were allowed to, they would immediately, gravitate to that place. If there was a Rath Yatra and Prabhupada was going to be there, right? Everybody, okay, here we go. They drive across the country Because why? Because devotees like to be around Prabhupada. And also they wanted to serve Prabhupada. They wanted to be there wherever Prabhupada was, and they looked forward to the opportunity to do some service to Prabhupada. See? So it's the same thing. Devotees, Nityasiddha devotees, they want to be around Krishna. They want to be around Lord Chaitanya, and they want to do some service. They want to do something to please him, to assist him, like that, you see? So that's why the Nityasiddha devotees come here to this material world to assist Krishna in his pastimes. See? It's not like they don't really have to come here. They're qualified to be, because they're liberated, they're qualified to be in the spiritual world, but it's out of love that they want to come here. They want to be where Krishna is. They want to help Krishna do whatever he's trying to do in the material world. See? So they come. Now, Krishna, on the other side, Krishna doesn't need their company. I mean, in the sense that he's okay. Krishna's blissful on his own, And Krishna doesn't need their help to do anything. I mean, there's one purport in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, I think it's text in the purport to text 5, where Prabhupada says, we may think of doing something, but it's not always... we may think of doing something, but it's not always possible for us to do as we like. But when Krishna wants to do something, simply by his willing, everything happens so wonderfully that one cannot imagine how it is being done. So Krishna doesn't need anybody's help doing it. He doesn't need anybody's company. He doesn't need anybody's help to do something, you see. But Krishna is very happy, just like Prabhupada, I'm sure, was very happy when he saw the devotees had traveled all the way across the country to be at some Rath Yatra where he was there. You see, and then he's also very happy, with whatever service they're trying to render. It's a reciprocation of love. You see, devotees want to be where Krishna is and please Krishna, and Krishna in return he wants to be where he wants his devotees around. He wants his devotees around, and he wants to please them. So that's my understanding of how it is that these Nityasiddhas are here in the material world. Then Prabhupada goes on to say in the purport about how human life is meant for reviving one's eternal relation with the Lord. Okay, we know that. And all religious injunctions are meant for awakening this dormant instinct of the living entity. Okay, so I'd like to say something about that, which is that it's very important. We've heard that many, many times. We know it. But it's very important to keep this in the forefront of our mind, that, that all religious injunctions, and there's everything we're doing is meant for awakening this dormant instinct of the living entity. The dormant instinct is your love for Krishna, our love for Krishna. Nityasiddha Krishna prema sabu kabanaya shravanadi sude chitte koruda. The pure love for Krishna is lying dormant within the heart of every living entity, and it's awakened by the process of devotional service, primarily hearing and chanting. So that's it's the goal, and it's very important to keep the goal in sight. You see, because when you lose sight of the goal, then all sorts of discrepancies creep in. Is that the word I'm looking for? Anomalies. There's an expression here in America. I don't know if it's, I think it's in English language in general. You can't see the forest for the trees. See, and that's referring to a person who, it's used to describe a person, someone who's so absorbed in the details of a situation that he can't see the situation as a whole. See, so that's what happens when you lose sight of the goal. You kind of get caught up in the details, and that could be, creates problems. And I'll give you an example. Like in Krishna consciousness, how we apply this is that, when we forget that, we're here to develop our love for Krishna, right? And we start, operating with some other motive, then we're going to get some other result. Like in another expression I'm fond of, I guess they call them, not proverbs or whatever the expressions, sayings, you reap what you sow. Did I get that right? Yeah, you reap what you sow. In other words, if you're engaging in your service and your, activities with in a mood of imagined condescension based on imagined feelings of superiority, if you're sowing that, if you're sowing that, that's what you're going to reap. And whatever kind of attitude you're putting out there, into the association of the devotees, whatever, intolerance or condescension or arrogance or whatever, that's what's gonna come back. You see? So that's what we have to keep the goal. The goal is we're here to reawaken our dormant love for Krishna. So we have to try to remember that, be mindful of that, and conduct ourselves in such a way that's going to be conducive to that, developing, realizing that goal. Okay? And and Prabhupada, made this point. He said you have to try to see the serving side of the devotees. What that means is we have to cultivate, practice learning how to appreciate the devotees, their devotional qualities. That's a very, important inner discipline. And even like there's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Vijavanaya Sampane Brahmani Gavihastani, talks about how the humble sage, he sees with equal vision the learned and gentle Brahmin, the dog, the cow, the dog eater, like that. That means he's seeing the potential. He's seeing that person in terms of their potential to be engaged, or that living entity, in terms of their potential to be engaged in devotional service. See, in other words, we have to practice not seeing in the bodily conception of life. Not seeing, this person is good looking, or this person's ugly, this person's smart, this person's stupid, this person's rich, this person's poor, this person's fat, this person. No. And then, acting according. Try not to get hung up on those things. That's the external. Prabhupada's instructions, see the serving side. Try to, have to cultivate that mentality of appreciating the devotion, the service attitude of that person. As Prabhupada refers to it in a different way here at the end of this purpose, is the aptitude for service. Cultivate appreciating the aptitude of service that you see in other people, and not the material qualities. Okay, so that's on that point. Prabhupada says, the sooner this awakening is brought about, the quicker the mission of the human life is fulfilled. Well, once again, making a little analogy here. So yeah, the sooner that awakening is brought about, the sooner we develop that type of mentality and thinking, then the quicker the mission of of the human life is fulfilled, but the quicker the mission of the Krishna conscious movement will be fulfilled. Okay? It's valid. That point is valid on a personal, individual level, and also on a larger scale. That's what'll make our movement successful. Being able to interact like that. And okay. It says a soul who is already advanced in devotional service has the opportunity to take birth in such an enlightened family. So once again, I think this is further furthering the analogy that people who get to come to the temple, people who get to join the Krishna conscious movement, they're souls who are possibly already advanced. Either they're advanced as a result of things they did in their past lifetime, or as Prabhupada, and that's what Prabhupada indicates in this purport, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Vajayate. And there also is another possible way in which they have become, advanced or fortunate. And I'll describe that by relating an anecdote something that took place. I don't know what year, I can't remember what year, but Prabhupada was on a walk with some devotees, and one devotee started raising this point. He said, Prabhupada, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, text 28, that only those who have engaged in pious activities in this life and in previous lives, and whose sinful activities are completely eradicated, and Prabhupada knew where he was going with that. So Prabhupada interrupted him and said, actually, I've created you good fortune. He was trying to say that, he was about to ask Prabhupada, does that mean that, we, your devotees, your disciples, have engaged in pious activities in this life and previous lives, and our sinful activities are completely eradicated? Prabhupada cut him off and said, I've created your good fortune. So whether it's as a result of past activities or just, with Prabhupada's causeless mercy, here we are in the Krishna conscious movement, and we got a great opportunity, to advance in spiritual life. And as Prabhupada says here, the quicker fulfill the mission of the human form of life, by being a member of the Krishna conscious movement. And And then finally, Prabhupada in the purport here, in the last part of the purport, he talks about how not only did Uddhava have this opportunity, he gives a couple other examples of people who had this opportunity. Well, one or two other examples. Actually, one happens to be himself. The other one, Maharaj Prickett had a similar opportunity to Uddhava. And then Prabhupada mentions himself as an example of somebody who had the opportunity. He says, by the grace of the Lord, we were given the same opportunity by our parents. And the beginning of our life was based on this principle. So I'm going to read everybody from, I did a little research on that, and I did find some things where Prabhupada talks about that, his opportunity. If I can get this, here we go. So this is in chronological order now. You'll be hearing this. It starts off, this is Prabhupada's first memory of his opportunity, and he's probably about 2 or 3 years old here, because the next one is he's 4 years old, so he's younger in the first one. It says, I can remember standing at the doorway of Radha Govinda temple, saying prayers to Radha Govinda Murti. Well, I don't know about 2 or 3 because he's saying prayers, but he was young. Because, as I said, the other ones, I got this from the Leela Amrita, and it was being presented as if it was in chronological order. So I'm assuming that, he was younger in this one than the next one, which says he was around 4 or something. So anyway, the deity was so beautiful with his slanted eyes. That was one. So Prabhupada was, right from a very, very young age. Actually, in a previous paragraph, it was describing how his caretaker, or his nanny or nurse or something, had pushed him there in a little, like a pram, with another boy, a friend of his, and they would always go together. So he was very young. He wasn't walking on his own. He was being pushed there in a pram, and there he was standing for hours. Well, that's coming. He was standing there looking at the deity, appreciating how beautiful it was for hours together. It says, then it's the next one. My father would rise a little late, around 7 or 8. Then after taking bath, he would go purchasing. Then from 10 o'clock to 1 in the afternoon, he was engaged in puja. Then he would take his lunch and go to his business. In the business shop, he would take a little rest for 1 hour. He would come home from his business at 10 o'clock at night, and then again he would do puja. Actually, his real business was puja. For livelihood, he did some business, but puja was his main business. We would be sleeping, and father would be doing arti. Ding, ding, ding. We would hear the bell and wake up and see him bowing down before Krishna. So Prabhupada had a great role model, his father. That's what he remembers about his father. His father was a serious devotee, that he was, doing puja twice a day in a very serious way. And, Prabhupada was aware of that and was inspired by that. So then it goes on. Now he's 6 years old. He says, when Abai was about 6 years old, he asked his father for a deity of his own to worship. Like what was described here in this, purport is referred. Here in the purport it's referred to dolls, but, Prabhupada asked for a deity of his own to worship. Since infancy, he had watched his father doing puja at home, see, so it had its effect, and had been regularly seeing the worship of Radha Govinda and thinking, when will I be able to worship Krishna like this? On Abai's request, his father purchased a pair of little Radha Krishna deities and gave them to him. From then on, whenever Abai ate, he would first offer to Radha and Krishna, and imitating his father and the priests of Radha Govinda, he would offer his deities a ghee lamp and put them to rest at night. And so, once again, perfect example. It goes on to say, I think this is the last one. Second one. Abai and his sister Bhavatarini became dedicated worshippers of the little Radha Krishna deities, spending much of their time dressing and worshipping them, and sometimes singing bhajans. Their brothers and sisters laughed, teasing Abai and Bhavatarini by saying that because they were more interested in the deity than in their education, they would not live long. But Abai replied that they didn't care. So they're both serious devotees, him and his sister, from a very young age. You can see like from here. And then it goes on. He had to abandon worshipping the Krishna deity he had demanded his father give him years before. He had retired his deities to a closed box. This is referring when he started at the Scottish Church, Scottish Churches College. He was older by this point, and I guess it just was too much to be a full-time student with all those responsibilities he had then and do his deity worship. So he, as it says, he retired the deities to a closed box. But It goes on to say, one night after his first year of college, so some time passed, but one night after his first year of college, Abai had an unusual dream. The deity of Krishna, his father had given him, appeared to Abai, complaining, "Why have you put me away in this box? You should take me out and worship me again." That was the dream. So then it says, Abai felt sorry that he had neglected his deity, and he resumed his worship of Radha and Krishna at home, despite his assignments. So that's, Prabhupada's start in life. And he's, as I said, one of a great example of a Nityasiddha who, by Krishna's arrangement, as he says here, by the grace of the Lord, was given the opportunity to resume his devotional service, or continue his devotional service, even at a very early age. So yeah, in this way, Prabhupada uses this phrase here, as I mentioned earlier, so that one may develop the aptitude of service. So Prabhupada had that opportunity to develop the aptitude of service, but now one may ask, well, wait. Prabhupada's in Siddha, right? So where's the question of developing an aptitude of service? He's already got it. If you're a Nityasiddha, you already have an aptitude of service. And how do we understand this, the achievements of a Nityasiddha in the material world? And I'm going to take a shot at answering that question, and maybe somebody might have a better answer than what I'm about to give, but this is what I came up with. That, you ever heard that expression, like a born athlete? Or this person's a born athlete, or that person's a born singer, a born musician, or born this, or born that. Okay, yeah, that might be the case, but still, they got to work at it. You could say, like, okay, Kobe Bryant was a born athlete. He was a born... Yeah, but he worked like anything to get as good as he was, you see? So you can't just go, oh, no, you can't discredit the person saying, like, if somebody's saying, well, he did this, yeah, but he was a born athlete. Yeah, but he was. He had natural talent and ability, but he worked at it like anything. See, so in the same way with Prabhupada and these Nityasiddha devotees, sure, yeah, they're born great devotees, but they work at it. It's not like they're just... Prabhupada wasn't pretending to perform austerities and tapasya. He was doing it for real, you see? He was a great devotee. So you can't take anything away from Prabhupada just by saying, oh, but he was a Nityasiddha, or any other Nityasiddha for that matter. No. It's true. They have some, initial or talent, ability, gift like that, blessing, but they work at it like anything at the same time to develop that and do something glorious to serve the Lord. And such was the case with Prabhupada and Jiva Goswami and, Maharaj Pariksit and Uddhava for that matter. So that's my understanding of, the position of a Nityasiddha. It's, you can't, as I said, they get the Nityasiddhas, sure, but they also get credit for whatever they achieve in this world, and not just, you can't just say, well, that's because that so-and-so is a Nityasiddha. No. It's like, anyway, I made the example already. It's an achievement. It's a genuine achievement. Okay, there was one additional thing on this point about how, the sooner the devotees, get the right mentality, and he says, Prabhupada said, the quicker the mission of the human life would be fulfilled, and I was making that analogy, the quicker the mission of the Krishna conscious movement will be fulfilled. When devotees are interacting with each other in the right consciousness. I found a paragraph that I think where Prabhupada really says something, addresses that point, and I'll just share it with everybody. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 4, text 79. Prabhupada says, if the preachers in our Krishna conscious movement are sincere devotees of Krishna, Krishna will always be with them, because he is very kind and favorable to all his devotees. Just as Arjuna and Krishna were victorious in the battle of Kurukshetra, this Krishna consciousness movement will surely emerge victorious if we but remain sincere devotees of the Lord and serve the Lord according to the advice of the predecessors, in parentheses, the 6 Goswamis and other devotees of the Lord. Then he goes to say, and this is the part that I found really interesting. He said, Prabhupada says, within this society, capital S, okay, capital S, within this society, capital S, we must try to serve the predecessors by preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult and spreading his name and fame all over the world. If we attempt this seriously within, once again, capital S, society, it will be successfully done. There is no question of estimating how this will happen in the mundane sense, but without a doubt, it happens by the grace of Krishna. So before I make my point, I'm going to bring in one other reference. In the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam, there's one passage where Prabhupada says, the pure devotees is always thinking about how to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. And Krishna being pleased by his attitude, he enlightens the general populace from within by his causeless mercy. See, so it's happening, it happens, but it's happening as the cause of it is Krishna's reciprocating with the sincerity of that pure devotee who's desiring to deliver the conditioned souls. So that's why they get enlightened from within by his causeless mercy. So I think Prabhupada's saying something similar here. I think that the society he's referring to is the Krishna conscious society, capital S, Krishna conscious society, not just human society in general. This is my thesis, okay? And I think basically the point he's making here is that when devotees in the society, the Krishna conscious society, try to serve the predecessors by preaching the cult, and they interact with each other in the right way, then, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna are pleased, and what happens is, as I say, it will be successfully done. You see, you get the blessings. We're like the little children, and when the parent is pleased by the way the little children are playing, they're rewarded. See, Krishna, when he sees that the devotees are sincerely doing things nicely, associating with each other according to the guidelines that have been given to us by our spiritual masters, predecessor acharyas, then Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, is pleased, and they'll bless us. They benedict us by the movement it flourishes, it becomes successful. That's my understanding of this paragraph. That's what I think it means. If we attempt this seriously within the society, preaching and doing what we're doing, exactly what we're doing here every morning, every day, then Prabhupada says it will be successfully done. There's no question of estimating how this will happen in a mundane sense. Just like sometimes, I've heard Savas make this point, that we distribute a lot of books, and it's not necessarily the same people that get the books that come and become devotees. Like we make our efforts to distribute the books and preach, and then different people come. Well, how do you understand that? Well, my understanding is, once again, it's just super soul. Krishna is reciprocating not like on a one-to-one mechanical way with the actual effort or activity, but Krishna can understand, these devotees, they're very sincere now about preaching. They're going out and they're distributing so many books. And then some people come, some new souls come and show an interest in Krishna consciousness. Not necessarily the same people who's got the books, but it's Krishna reciprocating with the devotees. Okay? So just like in that passage I meant from the fourth canto on this thing, I think it's saying the same thing. There's no question of estimating how this will happen in a mundane sense, but without a doubt it happens by the grace of Krishna. See, so when Krishna is pleased by our cooperative efforts to engage in devotional service, when he sees devotees are cooperating with each other and trying to associate nicely and appreciate the serving side of each other, etc., Krishna is pleased. And that pleasure will be expressed by the movement will flourish. People will come. More people will show interest. More people will participate, etc., etc. So, anyway, that's what I have to say about this verse in purport. Does anybody have any questions? David Prabhu. Yeah. Comment. Questions first, please. If anybody has any question, we'll do questions first and then comments second. Yeah, question? Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. In the example given about Parikshit Maharaj playing with dolls, and similarly Prabhupada also mentions that he himself, and there is a precedent in that. There is a precedent already, like something that happened long time ago, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it comes natural, right? So in my understanding, I'm trying to figure out this, that Uddhava has the same age as Krishna, practically speaking. They're cousins. They were born in the, let's say in the same place. And he's a baby. So he's playing the doll of Krishna already. Like, I try to understand this. Is he already like thinking that he's God or that he's worshipable? Because from the material point of view, it looks like they're cousins, the same age. Who told him that he was God himself?
Does it specifically say that he was playing with a Krishna doll? Yeah, he used to play with dolls in the form of Krishna. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I mean, Krishna's been around for a long time. This, I'm trying to think of a reference where, from something else Prabhupada said, which would help us understand that, how he's worshiping a doll of Krishna. And as you said, it's just Krishna's just getting started at that point. They're about the same age, so. But I think I remember reading something in the Krishna book, but I just can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe somebody remembers more clearly. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
all the incarnations of Krishna are mentioned in the Shastra previous to him actually appearing. So, even if like a form of...
Yeah, just take the thing.
If it's like if, let's say the Kalki incarnation is coming. So, and like one of Kalki's devotees is on the planet and his parents are having him play with a Kalki doll. It's not so bewildering because the Shastra says that Kalki is going to appear.
Okay. I got your point. That might be the explanation.
And through, as Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, through the transcendental system, it could just be arranged that Uddhava, because his Ishtadev is Krishna, Super Soul makes an arrangement where his parents give him a Krishna doll. But it's all the incarnations are mentioned in the Shastra.
Okay. Thank you. Maharaj had a comment, right? Comment? Oh, okay. The point. It's okay. Did you have a comment earlier? Did you want to make? No?
Uddhava. When Uddhava was a little boy, he was not like any ordinary little boy. Can you hear me better now?
That's better now.
Is that all right? Yep. Okay. We got to get the volume up too. That would help. So, so when Uddhava was a little boy, he was not like an ordinary boy. Ordinary boys, they play ball, they play tackle, they play soccer, they do all these kind of things. One of the things that Uddhava did is he made little dolls. And many boys, if they would see a boy making a doll and playing with a doll and looking up at a doll, they would think there's something effeminate about this particular individual. But Uddhava was far above this. He never cared what anybody thought about what he was not. This is who he knew was Krishna. And all he wanted to do is be reminded of Krishna. He could never get enough of Krishna. And therefore, he made little dolls of Krishna. And therefore, he became super Krishna conscious and very dear to Lord Krishna. So we can learn a little from Uddhava. And if you're a male, don't put it down to make a doll of Krishna. Dolls are not only for girls. Dolls are for boys too. It's a fact. But boys are too ashamed and too shy. He's a sissy. He's gay. They don't want to hear that. But if you know who you're manufacturing or making or presenting, that this is Krishna, the Supreme Lord, you laugh at them. They don't laugh at you. You get the last laugh. Okay? Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Well, we're a little bit old to play with dolls, but we're a little bit old to play with dolls, but I could suggest that, we could say that, apply that same attitude to deity worship. Because to be honest with you, even deity worship might be perceived as something kind of effeminate, or it's not like a macho activity worshiping the deities. So, but so male devotees shouldn't have that feeling that there's something not masculine about worshiping the deity. Could be just bodily concept of life. It's a totally transcendental activity, and just if you ever happen to have a thought like that in your mind, just kick it out as being.
Well, Uddhava was transcendental. he never had that problem.
He didn't have that problem.
No.
But in case
From the
any of
very
us are having
early
that problem,
set.
don't.
Yeah, right. He knew Krishna. And when he knew Krishna, he became totally transcendental.
Right.
And therefore, he had no qualms about playing with a deity like Krishna, putting clothes on him, taking clothes off him, putting shoes on him, talking to him, all these kind of things. We see little girls doing that. Oh, they talk, oh, my little baby, that kind of thing. So, Uddhava never cared about that. And look what he became as he grew up. One of the most magnificent thinkers, feelers, willers, and manifestors of devotional loving service as there was.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Okay, one last question. We can wrap it up.
When the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada about that, if previously we have some pious credit, and Prabhupada said, no, I create your own fortune.
Create your good fortune, yeah.
First of all, I accept totally that question, totally. My question will be that, what will be the attitude of devotees reading when you go in different statements? For example, when Queen Devahuti was telling that famous verse that, that you already been, what is that?
Yeah.
Devotees that keep the holy name the tip of their tongues. It is understood that this devotee already did pilgrimage, he already take bath in holy places, he read the scriptures, he knows everything. So therefore, not surprisingly. And similarly, in the Nectar of Devotion also we hear that Srila Rupa Goswami says that, anyone who comes and joins, it is there. So the point is that I'm making is that we believe in that statement, definitely. What Prabhupada says for us is like worshipable and take it to heart. At the same time, you have statements from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from Nectar of Devotion, like that. And what will be the attitude of devotees reading that? You just like, okay. At least for myself, I say, yes, what Prabhupada says, it fits me totally. But at the same time, you have the scriptures there, you're going to say, oh, that might not be true. So,
right. So, if I'm understanding your question correctly, the question is, you could definitely make a case for that devotees did have previous activities. There is some pious or background to be coming in contact with devotional service. And you mentioned Rupa Goswami in the Nectar Devotion and that verse by Devahuti. How do we reconcile the apparently contradictory statements that Prabhupada said, I created your good fortune and these other things? Don't know. I don't know off the top of my head what the explanation for that would be. But I would say that I wouldn't get upset by they're valid. Both are valid. And I have to think about it a little bit more to or ask Archita or Judakam or somebody like that to understand how that is okay. But I'm sure it is okay, but I just can't think of the explanation right off the top of my head. Anybody? So we'll put that one, we'll end with that, and we'll come back and get you the answer at a later date. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.